The dump trucks. It seems that they're everywhere, and with good reason. Of all the vehicles found on construction, maintenance, and public works, the dump truck is without question the most versatile. In addition to all the familiar carrying, dumping, and spreading of loads, this highly versatile equipment can be outfitted with a wide array of attachments to make it, without question, the workhorse of the job site. In addition to hauling material, dump trucks can perform the following tasks. In cold areas, they are pressed into service to spread salt, sand, and cinders on icy roads. Speaking of snow, it's hard to envision seeing a dump truck in snow country without a snowplow attachment. Dump trucks can also be equipped with attachments designed to accurately apply asphalt. Some have front scoops to pick up material and deposit in their beds. Dump trucks also have great capability to tow heavy loads, such as backhoes and other trailer-mounted equipment. If a dump truck were so easy to operate, everyone could do it, but thankfully the operation of dump trucks has been left up to professionals. Professional drivers, however, because dump trucks are so common, they have far too often been the source of serious injuries and fatalities. During this presentation, we will focus on the safety considerations that can positively or negatively affect safety while working with or around dump trucks. First of all, due to the wide variety of makes, models, and accessories associated with dump trucks, you must take the time to thoroughly read and follow the truck and accessories operator and safety manual. This is the key to understanding the proper safe operation of all the equipment. We don't have to remind you that a dump truck is a very powerful machine that requires you to be on your toes at all times. Other drivers, pedestrians, and children depend on your skills as a safe driver. When it comes to equipment safety, maintenance of your dump truck is extremely important. Prior to driving your truck, you must conduct the following checks. Check all vital fluids, such as engine oil, hydraulic fluids, transmission, water and power steering. Do so while keeping care to prevent dirt from entering any openings. Remember, if your truck has an automatic transmission, it must be warmed up to the proper operating temperature to get an accurate reading. Report any unusual colors or odors from any of the fluids. Check the condition of all tires, looking for cuts, bulges, or other damage. Be sure that the mud flaps are also in good condition. Check headlights, brake and running lights, as well as overhead strobes if so equipped. Check and clean the windshield, mirrors, and any glass, and don't forget about the wipers. If you hear an unusual noise from the truck, stop and check it out. You may be preventing a highly expensive repair if left unattended. Immediately report any damage noted to the vehicle or that may have been caused by another driver, and of course report any damage to your supervisor whether it was your fault or not. Ensure that the entry steps are free of grease or mud that could cause a fall. The cab must be free of debris such as soda cans, fast food bags, rolling flashlights, and the like. Any of these can create a hazard should they get under your feet during a panic stop. And certainly don't forget about your fire extinguisher and first aid kit. Be sure the extinguisher is fully charged and the first aid kit properly supplied. Before starting the truck, check that the air brake valves are in the closed position. Now that you've completed your pre-startup checks, go ahead and start up the engine. Are all the gauges functioning properly? And are they within normal operating ranges? If any are not working properly, immediately shut down the truck and report the issue to your supervisor. If unsure, ask. When it comes to risking damage to an expensive engine, there are no dumb questions. Refueling requires special care. First of all, no smoking is allowed. Be sure to ground the nozzle to the filler neck to avoid a buildup of static electricity which could cause fuel to ignite. If you spill fuel, clean it up. You'll be preventing both fire and slip and fall hazards. Modern dump trucks have cabs that can approach the complexity of a jet plane, so prior to driving, be sure you're very familiar with the location and function of the various controls, such as the air brake gauge, ignition switch, and gears. Again, be sure to refer to the operator's manual for specific instructions. On the dash, along with fuel level, oil pressure, and voltage gauges, you'll probably find one or two air pressure gauges. These may also be an indicator light on the dash that will stay lit until there is enough pressure to release the parking brake. Some trucks have an audible alarm that will indicate when there is sufficient pressure. Most trucks require about 60 pounds of air pressure in order to release the brake. While waiting for the pressure to build, go ahead and put your seatbelt on and recheck the gauges and mirrors. This might be a good time to check that the backup alarm is working properly. When you have sufficient air pressure, go ahead and release the air brakes. If you need to apply the parking brake again, simply pull the knob to set the braking system. Be sure that you've been trained and are familiar with the 2-speed axle switch. Generally, the axle switch should be kept in the high position for normal street driving and in the low for steep inclines or poor road conditions. All dump trucks have a maximum gross vehicle weight rating, and that must never be exceeded. If you drive overloaded, you risk reduced vehicle control and increased potential for an accident. Remember, a loaded vehicle handles very differently than an empty one. Be prepared for longer stopping distances, slower acceleration, an increased lean on curves and turns, and a very different steering response. Dump trucks and their operators are at particular risk during dumping operations, as when the bed is raised, there is increased risk of the truck tipping over while driving over uneven or soft ground. Be sure to lower your bed as soon as possible after dropping your load. Another very real concern is coming into contact with overhead lines. More than one driver and bystanders have been electrocuted while making contact when power lines contacted a raised bed. While waiting for a load, never sit in the cab, as falling rocks and debris can injure you if one should crash through the windshield. Never allow the operator to swing loads over the front of the truck. Remember, you're the one who will have to explain the big dent right in the middle of the hood. When preparing to leave with a load, be sure to clean off loose dirt or gravel from the sides and back of the bed. Failure to do so can lead to windshield damage claim or worse. Be sure to cover your load to prevent material from blowing off in transit. When climbing into the cab, always use the handrail, if provided, to prevent a fall. The dump bed is a valuable specialized tool, but it can also be a hazard to you and those around you. Nobody should be allowed in the path of the material to be dumped. This is very important for people working in the near vicinity, as more than one person has been buried alive during the backfill process. Always use pre-arranged hand signals, so there are no mix-ups, and be sure that there are no overhead lines that could get caught in the raised dump. To dump your load, push the pin latch release or electronic button, which will in turn release the pin latch on the tailgate. The rate of flow can be regulated by limiting chains and the angle of the raised bed. The rear of the truck can be a hazard. There are pinch points that can take off a finger, as well as a risk of a serious head injury from a swinging tailgate. To actually raise the bed, engage the power takeoff or PTO lever. Engage the PTO lever and push the dump control in the neutral or middle position. This will cause the bed to stop at any level you wish. Be sure to check your operator's manual for specific instruction. Return the bed to its original or lowered position by putting the lever or switch in the normal or original position. Be sure to push the pin latch lever back up to secure the tailgate. There are some very important safety considerations you should be aware of while working around your dump truck. Never get under a raised dump bed without safety devices to prevent an accident. The reason is obvious. If you must work under a raised bed, be sure the bed is supported by an arm bar strong enough to support the load. The same goes for allowing yourself to get under an opened tailgate. A tailgate can weigh nearly half a ton. One slip and a very serious injury can result. We mentioned earlier the fact that driving a dump truck is an important and sometimes difficult job. Safe driving becomes even more difficult on construction sites. Wet, muddy, and slippery conditions require your concentration to be at high level. When driving on these surfaces, avoid the tendency to oversteer. Also avoid quick movements of the steering wheel. Be sure to decrease your speed and allow for extra stopping distance as required by these conditions. Apply your brakes carefully by pumping steadily and evenly to avoid brake lockup and loss of control. Avoid driving through flooded areas unless you're sure the water level is no higher than the bottom of the wheel rims to avoid dangerous wet brake linings. If you become stuck in the mud, sand, or snow, apply light pressure to the accelerator while the transmission is in gear. Don't race the engine, you'll just make things worse. If you're to be towed out, do so according to the operator's manual. Top-notch dump truck drivers are not a dime a dozen. It takes someone dedicated to the job and their equipment to operate safely and efficiently. You're the person responsible for the safe operation of your unit. A professional follows the rules and regulations and elevates their safety awareness on a daily basis. Your career should be a safe and rewarding one.